Hey, Gary, welcome to the show. As way getting started, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Hey, Brian. Thanks so much for having me today. I really appreciate being part of this. Yeah, my name is Gary Corrigan. I run sales and account management for a company called Qubit. I'll tell you a little bit about Qubit in a minute, but I've been in sales since I graduated from Providence way back when, 1999.
Whoops.
I would say my sales career really kicked off when I went to Cognos in 2004, and probably familiar with Cognos. It was an amazing place to work. Largest software company in Canada, but obviously in New York, in the New York area, we did a lot of really fun deals. And then in 2004, we got acquired by IBM. So I think you were at IBM at the
Yeah, I
same time,
remember.
right?
Yeah, we got acquired in '07, '08.
Yeah, yeah. So we were there at the same time, and I used to run the analytics team, the sales team, analytics in New York City.
Yep.
Worked in that office until 2011 when I decided to step away from being at the software company, and I came to Qubit to start a sales team and grow this company. We're a big partner of IBM's in the analytics space, and I really wanted to continue to sell IBM's portfolio of analytics software, but I wanted to also be on the side that could see it through to delivery. I thought it would give me a different perspective. So that's what I did. And I've been here at Qubit really at 9 years now. Went from probably 10 to 15 people to now we're about 100. A lot of growth and having a blast doing it, and things are changing every day. But that's a little bit about my sales background. So I run sales and account management here.
Cool. Did you know anybody there before you went there?
Yeah. So when I was at IBM selling, we really started, IBM was pretty good about looking at partners to help sell and deliver. My frustration as a salesperson and then as a sales manager was that many of the partners could deliver on the promise of the analytics portfolio, but what they really struggled with was how to sell. So, I would talk to my reps all the time about, look, you got a month left in the quarter, and they would give me 15 deals they were going to close. And I'm like, you ain't closing 15 deals in the next month, right? So I would be like, which partners are you going to use to drive these? Get your feelers out there. You're running a business, so figure out how to grow it. And we would push that, but the problem was most of the partners couldn't close on time. They just struggled with running the sales cycle. And so inevitably what happened was I got pulled in to really having to run the deals and cadence the partners to death. And it wasn't helpful. So I wanted to continue to sell IBM's analytics portfolio at the time, but I also thought, well, geez, if I can take a company that can deliver on the promise of what we do, but turn it into a great sales culture as well, we might be able to do something with this. And it turns out we could.
And did you go over there as a leader, or did that kind of grow organically?
Well, so I actually, so you asked me if I knew them. I knew Qubit really well. The CEO, Gary Quirk, another Gary, as well as the Chief Operating Officer, Kathy Jurak. I called Gary up one day and I said, hey, do you want to start a sales team, like to really grow your business? And he goes, ironically, yeah, we do. So I worked on putting together a contract with him. And the whole idea was that, I was going to be, we had an inside sales guy they had, but I was going to be the sales person. Yep. And if everything went according to plan, that I would grow the business. And as time goes on, I'd start being able to bring in my sales team, the folks that I trusted to take on the various territories. And so for the first year or so, I just got us into deals and we started closing deal after deal. In the beginning, maybe they were doing $1 million of software revenue a year. Within a year or two, we were doing 5, 6, 7 million. And then once I built up enough revenue, right, that we were getting the business, then I could use that to start bringing on and to build the sales team. And that's ultimately what happened.
And what was it like going from selling a product to being service? Are you service only, or do you sell product also?
So I'll tell you a little bit about Qubit, if you don't mind, and that'll help me answer that question. So Qubit in general is we're an analytics company. We specialize in something called XP&A, which is becoming a more and more relevant in the enterprise analytics software space, especially in the planning software space. So IBM had a TM1, now it's planning analytics. But as you might know, there's all kinds of players, Anaplan and Planful, and all sorts of them. We focus on selling financial analytics software solutions combined with operational or S&OP, bringing that together, infusing all your planning with predictive, and then delivering that. So we're a reseller of IBM software. We also are a partner of Workday. But we've built a lot of our own technology as well, and a lot of our ancillary solutions. And so we are a big reseller of those. So we get into software deals with IBM or Workday, or we find them on our own, we close them, but we also then are responsible for the delivery. So to answer your question, I would say we're a solutions company. And it kind of leads me then to, I don't know if you've seen this, so I'll be curious of your response to this. When I was at Cognos, we were out doing deals with IT, driving agendas, selling features and functions. So come on in and show us how Cognos can give me the dashboard functionality, right? Really do proof of concepts. We would go in, pre-sales folks, sales guys, and we would just do these amazing demos, and clients would give us checks for $500,000, million, $10 million, whatever it was. And they didn't even have a roadmap to what they were going to do with it. Yeah. Right? Like, you think back, like that stuff happened back in the day. And so sales was different then. It was, there was a lot, you had to be a really good seller, but at the same time, it wasn't so much a solution sell. It was a features and function sell, and it was driven by IT, and then they would bring the business. What I started observing, back in the, 2009, 10, 11, and then since, is that's transformed. I think now clients are looking to businesses driving agendas, and they want a solution. They want value. They want time to value, and then value over time. And so the idea of pressing features and functions or selling a platform is pretty difficult today, if you ask me. And I think if you're at a big company like IBM or Oracle or SAP, you walk in with that like brand on your head, and you might lose half your audience because they don't buy IBM or Oracle. So what I found here at Qubit, and what we do a really good job of, is we're just focused on the business problem, and we start with a solution, finding the business problem to it, and part of that is selling how I'm going to get you your value. Because most software people that don't have that in their bag and they just sell the software, they get cut off when the client goes, well, how are you going to get this delivered for me? I don't trust you're going to deliver it.
We got
and so we sell the whole thing, and it's amazing how it changes the whole dynamic of a deal.
And that's great, but how do you find people who can do that from the sales side?
Well, that's okay. So I'll answer that question by starting off with, when I came to Qubit, a lot of people said to me, that's a consulting firm. Like, you're not going to be able to get that consulting firm to sell or allow you to sell because they just do consulting, and they don't want a software sales guy in their company. So I took that as a challenge, and like you, I'm sure in your career, you're like, all right, we'll see what happens here. My first few days at Qubit were a little bit cold with some of the managing directors who were like, we don't want, you realize we built our reputation based on the fact that we always deliver on everything. And we don't want a sales guy to come in and sell the moon and then put us in a bad position. And so I said, well, my commitment is, I've always sold only what I believe in. And so I believe in you guys, and I won't sell something that you don't believe in. And if we work together, then we will only sell what we know we can deliver. And as time goes on, that will snowball into something really good. And so if anything, coming to Qubit has turned me into much more of a consultative seller. And so I personally made a transition where I think in a lot of deals I work now with big Fortune 100 companies, there's times when they're like, well, are you in consulting or sales? Because you seem like a consultant, right?
That's a good sign.
Yeah, it's really fun, to be honest. And it's fun because it works, and it's best for the client, and it's best for you. Now, to answer your question about how to find those people, I guess what I've always been really careful of is making sure that I work with salespeople that think like business people. Don't try to close too early. don't look like a salesperson and act like a salesperson, but act like an advisor. And so I kind of handpicked the people that I felt were going to be able to fit that mold. Yeah. And whether they worked with me at IBM or Cognos, or whether I actually on my team have a guy that I sold to for many years. And I had an opening on our team about 4 years ago. And he came to me and he said, I want to work for you. I want to sell for Qubit. And I said, well, you've been buying from us, but you want to get on the sales side. And he said, yeah. And I thought to myself, well, what better sales guy than a walking, talking reference? Yeah. You know? So to answer your question, I guess it's just a matter of trying to figure out those that are, and they don't have to be older. They can be younger too, but they just have to really think more on the consulting side, because I think that's what clients are looking for.
And that's always the hardest part of a company like yours. It's like, it's great that you do the solution, but the caliber of people you need to get it into a new account is so high. It's almost like the consulting firms, the partners are always exactly like you, where they got business, they got technology, they know how to put it together. They don't oversell and overpromise. Yeah. They understand how it works so that they, walk that tightrope.
Yeah. Well, you're right. I've had a few that just didn't work out. They came and it didn't work out, right? Yeah. With that said, most of the salespeople I have here have been here 4, 5, 6 years. It's a really great place to work, and if you get it, it works out well. Now, with that said, as you talk about all the time, getting into accounts is one of the it's an art in itself. Just these days, with the way how hard it is and the amount of vendors and everything else. So we do lead with solutions, but we typically will use like a small business development team. I actually have started a program with IBM, for instance, where they lend me for 6 months a summit hire, which is a young person out of school. Yeah. They go through IBM sales school, but then I get to bring them on and teach them about the analytics world and the competitors, and not just about sales 101, but about how to sell what we sell, and set them up to do a lot of prospecting just to get meetings. And then when they get meetings, I allow them to participate in the calls and everything so they can learn. But we've had some young summits that have just gotten us 2-3 meetings a week. And then once we get those meetings, my reps are pretty good at being able to, or I'm involved sometimes, I still love to be in the deals, to qualify it and then get our subject matter experts engaged. And if you've got the right people and you've got the right SMEs, you only have one chance to make a first impression. So if you've got the right people and they talk that language, you just need that hook. And once you get the hook, then it's about the right agenda to win the deal, and the reps can do that. But I think it's about how you call in, how you get in, and then how you have the right subject matter experts to get that early hook in the deal.
So when you're hiring reps, what are you looking for, especially if you don't know them already?
Yeah, I'm going to start with, of all the things, as salespeople, we're all confident, right? But it's important for us to always to share our weaknesses. The one thing that my biggest weakness is picking out, the right salesperson if I don't know them. Yeah. I think it's because salespeople are so good at selling.
Right.
Isn't it ironic that
go figure?
Yeah. But what I guess what I really look for is strong relationships with clients. Like if they can demonstrate that they've got long-standing relationships with clients, that they've been able to win some pretty strategic deals, be able to go back and sell the second and third deal to clients. I also I think that sales is I was an athlete in college. I still am a cyclist and runner and everything else. I'm very competitive. I want a competitive mindset too. Like, I don't need you to be the smartest person in the room.
No.
I just need you to be smart and not work on the wrong deals, right? I don't want you to go spin up all of our time and bring our CEO and me. And you smell to go win. And I need a competitive mindset, and somebody just works really hard, because this is a profession, call it a sport, whatever you want, where it's just whoever's going to work the hardest and be smartest at doing it. So I know that that's not maybe the best answer, but I need you to show that you've been with your clients, you stay with them, you are able to say no, at times, and that ultimately you're just going to run through a brick wall to get something and work really hard to get it. And you want to win, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's key.
Have you had more success finding people who have sold professional services versus who have sold product?
Well, almost every person on my sales team now, except for the exception of the one that I mentioned earlier, was a client.
Yeah.
They all came from the software side.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, they all did. And as did I. But what all of them have done is early on and during the interview process, and then when we did orientation and as we got them involved, I've just found it's quite amazing that they have to sell the software deal because that's typically how we get the leads. But they just caught on to making sure that we brought our consulting team in to then sort of make sure that we had the statements of work and everything to deliver it. Part of that is back to what I was saying earlier. If we get a lead, like we get leads, we find them ourselves, or we get them from IBM or Workday or whatever it might be. It starts off as qualifying a software deal. But what's the only thing that as the rep has to do, in my opinion, is early as they can turn that into not just a software deal, but a solution. And then we bring in our consulting managers to start to qualify. And then when we give that proof of concept demo or whatever it is in a sales cycle, we're immediately going into, tell me about how you want to get this done. And we move into the services side of it early. Because then the client starts seeing, well, these guys care about the delivery. And so the sales guy just has to get them involved and allow them to do the thing. Of course, sales guys also are going to make sure we're pricing it appropriately and all those sorts of things, But that's kind of the key is they don't have to be consultants. They just have to know to get those consulting managers in so that we don't just get caught in a feature function software, right, but we get into the solution.
What they want to accomplish. And what motivates you as a leader? Do you like building something?
Yeah. I mean, as I said, for me, I was listening to a podcast you did a couple of weeks ago, and you were talking about this. It's funny. I've been fortunate enough to do well financially because of this career, but I didn't set out in the beginning to be like, I want to make X amount of dollars doing this. It kind of found me. And you had a guy the other day, he said the same thing. I want to win. And it's that thrill of winning a deal and then seeing it come to fruition and watching a client deliver is what, I love to see. As a sales leader, I just want to see my team do well. I mean, I don't want to sit back and watch, by the way. I like to be involved in deals. You'll see my team will tell you, some of you had them on, they'd be like, oh, he's killing me. He wants to get in another deal. But at the same time, nothing makes me more happy to see anyone on my team do a deal without me having to do a thing. You know what I mean? I'm just motivated by Qubit continuing to grow. We've done this organically, and I want to see us continue to grow and thrive. We've been IBM's top analytics partner many, many years. And so, to see everyone in our company have a better life, to do well, and to see our clients sign up for reference after reference is what really motivates me. And if that stops, or all of a sudden, like, we're not winning deals or we're not growing, then, it's probably time for me to do something else. But it's been fun, and that's what motivates me.
And how do you hold yourself back? Like when you see a deal or you're talking through a deal and you're like, this doesn't sound like it's really on track. How do you insert yourself enough without hijacking in the deal?
Yeah. So, we do, like any place, we do cadence calls, and then we do one-on-ones and we review it. What's great is that, we're a virtual company. With anything, COVID-19 has now caused, I see the faces of my reps more now than I ever did before, right? Like, we see each other, and I stopped using this thing. I don't use it anymore. I just get on Zooms and everything else, and that's how we do our cadence calls. Mostly, I think I get myself involved when it's a competitive deal. We do a lot of deals where, maybe it's the next stage, a phase 2 or phase 3, and we're going to sell the next $500,000 of software and $500,000 of services. You know, I probably am not going to get in that very much unless it's structuring the deal. And then, you know, I do a lot of going to Workday or IBM and making sure that we're going to be able to get approved what we said we were going to sell to the client. And there's that whole dynamic that you probably remember when you were running your team at IBM. But when it's competitive, that's where oftentimes I'll be involved. Maybe it's early in the deal to just feel out like, do I think we have a good chance to win? Or we might talk about, you know, hey, look, I think we might be in a little bit of trouble here. So why don't you just, you know, potentially introduce me as, you know, coming in to just introduce myself and you know, and talk to them about what Cubic can do. And then maybe I can start to dig around a little bit for you. So, you know, it's not in every deal, but specifically if it's competitive, then that's kind of where I like to get involved. And, you know, and to be honest, my reps are pretty good at, if they know that we're not thriving in a deal, then they'll come to me and let me know. And then we sort of put a plan in place.
And how do you keep them aware of how complex these sales are? You know,
I'm poking holes as much as I can. You know, I think in general, thinking like the client and thinking like the competition, the whole Sun Tzu, you know, sort of thing is really important. So we'll oftentimes role play where, you know, we're saying, all right, well, let's think if you were in this, you know, and maybe we're competing with another planning software solution and we're with IBM in the deal, you know, I'll start to throw out all the things that they're going to say, because frankly, we know the market well. And I think it's very important for me as the sales leader to make sure that I know the market. See, that leads me to something where I'm concerned that today's world, there's a lot of sales leaders, and I see this at the big companies, that they run cadence, right? They manage up, right? They do what they have to do to make sure that everyone's happy above them. But what young salespeople and in general salespeople need is how do I win a deal based on who I'm competing with and in that scenario. And if you're a sales leader that can't run a deal, you know what I mean? If I literally don't have any idea how to run the sales cycle myself, then I don't know what value you're really doing, because the holes that you poke have to be based on what your competition is saying about you. And they also have to be based on, if I'm the client, why am I going to like or not like what this person's saying to me? And so oftentimes, I guess to answer your question, that's what my job is to do. And then when we get through that process, they're like, geez, I don't know, then I don't feel great about where we are. And then we put a plan in place to figure it out.
Well, I think that's key, because I think the sales leader can do a great job at that, because you know what the customer or the competitors are saying. You know, if you were them, what would you be saying, or what would you be thinking? What would you be concerned about?
Yes.
Right. Because if you think you're in the lead and you're competing, what's the competitor going to do?
Yeah.
Are they going to end run you, or what are they going to say about you? You know, what holes are they going to poke?
Well, and as you know, a lot of humans in general, but in sales, we like to hear what we want to hear, and we like to make ourselves feel very comfortable all the time. So yeah, that deal, I think it's going to close. And the client told me this. Well, I live by a mantra that it's not what someone says, it's why they say it, right? If they need you in column B or C to get their deal done, then they're going to tell you everything you need to hear. And so this kind of leads me to something that when I have these young summit hires I was telling you about, and even my team and myself, there's so many times when salespeople don't have a coach in their account. So the person that's going to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly, and they're guessing. And if you're guessing in a deal, I always tell my team, if you're guessing, you're just lucky. You're a lucky salesperson. And so the only way you don't guess is you're on the inside of the deal. And the only way you're on the inside is if you have a coach that for some reason in your process, you say, what's in this for you? And they say, well, I get a promotion, or I get a bonus, or, hey, I've used this before, but you've got work to do. But that's your coach. And any deal that we don't have a coach, I always just say, well, you know what? You're going to get lucky. You're kind of going to get lucky. So you better find a way to get one quick.
And plus, in your space, I'm sure they have incentive to keep more than one vendor engaged,
Yes. Yeah.
right? So they're telling you what you want to hear, but you as a senior person can sense the difference between them playing you versus you having a coach, a champion, somebody who's going to be on your side, or that partner in crime.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, I think one of the greatest gifts a salesperson can have is cultivating the coach in the account.
Yeah.
Like, you know, obviously you've been through all this and you preach this all the time. There are so many deals within a deal, right? And for me, if you go back to, if you're that sales leader that knows the market, the first deal you need to close in any deal, whether it's a blind RFP that comes to you, whether it's a lead that comes on the website, a lead that comes from a partner, the first deal you have to close is, how do I make sure this agenda fits what we're good at, what we do really well, and ultimately what the client needs, right? And so I'm like, forget about closing the deal. Like, we're not there yet. Right. We got to close the right agenda, because if you're not on the right agenda, if you're walking down the wrong hall, you're going to walk into the wrong room and then you're lost. So, right. I mean, I think, well, I know that's one of the things that, as I've gone on and done this more and more, I don't care what you're selling. You just need to know the agenda that ultimately is going to help you win your deal. And if you can't sell that agenda, then that's going to make it very difficult. And of course, those agendas are different all over the country. I mean, the agenda in, I think, San Francisco and how they buy is different than Atlanta.
In Manhattan. Yeah.
Like, way different. Like, Manhattan wants you tell me when, how, and when you're going to get it done. And right. San Francisco, it's like, dude, don't tell me a thing. I'll figure it out. Yeah. Because we've done this a million times and we're technology people. It's a different game. And so being able to be that adaptive to it, but still getting your agenda where you have a chance to win is the key, you know?
And a lot like playing poker, where you're looking for these little tells of when you're in the lead. And if you start hearing like the competitors' lockouts or rules, and all of a sudden you're like, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, this has been a fun conversation. Where can people go to connect with you and learn more about your work?
Well, if you want to learn more about Qubit, which you just go to www.qubit.com. And that's our website, and on there you can find all of our solutions. And if you're interested in XP&A, then we've got plenty of information there. Of course, you can check me out on LinkedIn as well, and be happy to connect with folks.